Being beat out by TSM... Oh, did you just... LOL? Did you just throw LOL in like it's just some spice word that you can just add? It's a meme, damn it. It's LOL. Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new video on the channel. 3 weeks in a row. I don't have fancy sound effects, so that's what you get. It's our week 2 power rankings for the 2019 LCS Spring Split. And that's crazy. If you want some more of my live content, you can always check out my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/trombone-no-vowels. But if you're just here for this, let's get into it. Number 1, we have Team Liquid. Now, Liquid is still really the most dominant looking team. And I don't think, unfortunately, that this team has a whole lot to prove. Teams can make mistakes and kind of show small flaws in the armor of this lossless team by going even, but until someone really shows that there's a full exploit to this team, there isn't really much to talk about other than that this team is pretty much exactly what we expected before they even played. And that they are a functioning super team. I think Liquid as it stands and Griffin as they stand, I think Liquid could at least take a couple games off of a Griffin. And now if you don't follow the LCK that closely, that's fine. But the point is, Griffin is freaking dominating there, Liquid is dominating here, and if it really push comes to shove, I do believe that, nerves aside, Liquid could probably take at least 4 out of 10 games off of Griffin. And that is saying something considering LCK's powerful history. Now, it's a little bit in debate because of Worlds, but this Liquid team is powerful. That brings us to a solid-looking number 2, FlyQuest. Now, FlyQuest threw away a game versus CLG. They tried something new, failed to push an advantage in anything significant for a win. Day 2, they really seemed to bounce back and made early advantages and then pushed those into a win, seemingly really from the beginning. Once they had a solid lead, they lost the minimum, slowed the game down, and really made it theirs. Through a win versus TSM, this team showed as a shining star to take a solid spot at 2nd place among a team that is really at its most competitive in numbers 3 through 8. So if you polish this team up, they can look to do some incredible things in this league and are right now among the top 2 teams that really set themselves apart in the LCS. The LCS. That brings us to the mosh pit of talent and craziness that is number 3 through 8. We'll start with number 3. Cloud9. Now, C9 coming out here with a 1-1 week is a bit surprising. They managed to dismantle a struggling Golden Guardians team. That makes sense, but came up a bit short against CLG on really quite a rebound streak. I think that C9 missed a huge opportunity here to set themselves apart from the pack, but ended up really right back in it, with CLG managing to take advantage of C9 seemingly through sheer coordination. I think CLG really managed to show some flaws in this otherwise powerhouse of a team from C9. It's okay though, all hope is not lost. C9 doesn't have to stay number 3 forever. All they really got to do is polish it up, show us what they're really capable of. But as it stands, after week 2, unfortunately this team has to sit among the others as a middle of the pack team, a shared title among 6 teams in total in the 2019 LCS. That is insane. 3rd is not a death sentence for this team. It is higher than I expected them to be, and when push comes to shove in 3 through 8, you gotta really ask who beats who. And I think C9 has the potential to beat all of the teams that are below them. That brings us to right below them, number 4. We have Clutch. Now, I don't think this team's strength should be based on how well they can play against Team Liquid. I mean, Team Liquid looks like an absolute powerhouse. We talked about this. And even this team managed to keep it relatively even in the Liquid game. It's hard to place a team where they made a close-looking game against both TL and Optic, but I think it really has to count for something. This league is crazy, like just absolutely nuts right now, and in a league where the top 6 teams are all looking really close in power level, I think Clutch is still a contender, but maybe closer to the middle of the pack than a leader of it. Some exciting things happening from Clutch. Maybe not quite the number 2 overreaction, but it was a week-by-week power rankings. Don't get mad. Don't get mad. They're still number 4. I think there's still a lot of gas in the tank for this team, mostly because of some shortfalls from the teams lower on the list, but I do think Clutch is a solid number 4. I stand by my decision. They played pretty well against TL and Optic. Unfortunately, they only took the Optic game, which leaves a little less discussion about TL, but this team still looks really strong, and I still think they can take some real games off of some real teams. Do not underestimate Clutch. They are sitting solidly at number 4. Number 5. Coming in, we got TSM. I don't know. I don't even care about that much about TSM, but we care now because it's power rankings time. They won against Fox in a really hard-fought bloodbath of a game that really seemed up to a coin toss. I mean, TSM played out the later stages of the game well, bouncing back from some early losses to give themselves an advantage, but still lost against a FlyQuest that has been looking really strong out of the gate. They lost straight from the beginning. They tried to make engages to put the game even, but even those ultimately failed. 2, I'd like to call them sloppy Baron calls, but when you really look at it, they were just outplayed. I'm not 100% sold on TSM's strength as a team as a whole. I'm not as confident as I was last week. I think the analyst desk really put it best when talking about TSM, and talking about how they wait to show how much better it is than every other team. But this team really lacks the early game proactivity that Liquid does, and it keeps them from being like a top 3 team. This team, willing to sit back, willing to take losses, not having a really clear early game strategy, does hold them back, and I think it puts them 5th and maybe even sometimes lower. Unless TSM can really shore up their early game and combine it with a mid to late game that looks really strong, I think TSM has to sit really solidly at the middle of this league, number 5. Super confident in this one. TSM, they got something to prove, and they got something to lose. Number 5. That's TSM. But that brings us on to number 6. We got EchoFox coming in. EchoFox really put a hard-fought victory against Optic that was perfectly willing to play the game that was given to them. A few proactive plays from the get-go to put Fox behind, but they were more than willing to take their advantage bot and just grind neutral objectives. Ending with 6, that's right, count them, 6 Drakes, 2 Barons, and some amazing hooks from Hakuo to give this team straight win condition and a really strong team fight. Being beat out by TSM isn't a crazy stretch of the imagination. EchoFox pretty solidly at 7th for quite a while, but TSM has been lacking proactivity, and that's what really keeps them behind. I think Fox has to fall right behind them. Lacking a measure of consistency really holds this team back. I appreciate that they're trying to try different things, exploit the game, but a shady draft and an inability to push early advantages held this team from being higher in this week's rankings. And when a push comes to shove, can EchoFox beat the teams above it? I don't know. I don't think so. Again, like, you kind of have to go, I have to go back to potential for 3 through 8 because these teams are so stacked, so close. And when you really look down at it, EchoFox misses it. They don't have that quite yet. You know, we're not locking. So that's why EchoFox has to stay number 6. That's your boy, EchoFox. Number 7, we have got a CLG that I did not expect to take out of 10th place after last week. Now this is insane. They won against FlyQuest, who pretty much just gave the game away, but came back in day 2 to take out a C9 that's been looking really strong. Instead of just sieving objectives like in game 1, they took the game a bit better reactively against C9, finding fights, coming out on top, and although it looked close, CLG managed to make advantages and play around them. Darshan on Cyan looked like a monster. Cyan isn't the flashiest champ, but the engages and the fights created allowed CLG to win fights in both games. Backed by a few really, and I cannot stress this enough, really clutch ultimates by PoE to make sure the fights always went in CLG's favor. If you can have strong engage tools like Darshan, and a really clutch PoE who has the mechanics to follow up on whatever fight that CLG decides they want, I think CLG has the potential to go even higher. However, when you have hope in CLG, and unfortunately after a week 2-0, I do have some hope in CLG, I'm going to have to keep them 7th. I don't expect a whole lot from this team. This may have been a flash in the pan, it may not have, but with Weldon and other players on the team referring to continuing that roster experiment and shift, I do have to keep CLG 2nd. If you put them up against other teams, it's what CLG are we seeing. If we're seeing the CLG from this week, it needs a little polish. Number 4-5 team pretty easily. If we see the teams from week 1, those iterations or some other weird iteration that really doesn't quite gel as well, CLG needs to stay at the bottom of the list. So it's really interesting to put a 2-0 team number 7 for the week 2 power rankings, but you have to look at it as a whole, right? CLG week 2, you have to look at week 1 now. Every week we do this, it becomes a little bit harder. You have to look at CLG as a collective, and it's really what CLG are we going to see. Some crazy coordination. It brought me back to like 2016 MSI, but I don't expect to continue to see that. And that being the case, I do have to keep CLG 7th. Moving on to number 8. We have Optic coming in with a solid performance against Clutch, took just straight control of the Clutch game and managed to pull a convincing win. However, on day 2, while keeping it close with Fox, they ultimately failed. Now, Optic is in that really weird spot, like near the competitors, but are missing something truly to compete at the higher levels of this league as it stands. Now, everyone is taking games off of everyone, and the middle of this league does really seem stacked. I keep saying that, but all of these teams are going to move every week because it is just so hard to know who is going to come out on top week after week. Optic, going into next week, some roster changes. We're going to have an up and down Optic going in as well. Asta looking really strong. We'll see if he even stays, but Asta in particular, I mean, I guess Optic, but Asta in particular, showed a little bit of weakness. Not a glaring weakness, but he did show a little bit of weakness. I don't think that this team can compete with the teams above it consistently. Can they? Of course. Can they do it consistently? That depends on what Optic decides to do and how they really want to push this team going forward. So we're going to have to put them number 8. Like I was saying, guys, 3 through 8 were incredibly hard to place, especially from EchoFox to Optic. I gotta stand by what I'm saying. I do believe in what I'm saying. It gets a little shady to 7 and 8 because of roster indecision, but 3 through 8 is a really, really competitive bunch. I don't think that these are going to stay the same. I don't anticipate that this entire league is going to stay the same, because as these teams polish and grow, some are going to separate themselves. And that is what's really neat, is we get to see that separation from week to week. We got to see a little bit of that separation today, showing that FlyQuest might be the real deal. Although they completely threw away a game to CLG, they managed to pull it out, and I do think that this league seems more competitive than it really has in a long time. So that's 3 through 8. You can't be judging middle of the pack because they're not Liquid, because Liquid is on a level of their own in this league right now. And I am dragging on way too long, so we should move it on to number 9. 100 Thieves. This team seems to lack the direction and gel that a lot of the mid-tier teams have. It may not be hopeless for 100 Thieves, taking a game off of Golden Guardians, but this team still needs to grow, and pretty significantly. Now, I said this team has the most to prove, and I still think that is almost still true. Now, CLG comes out of nowhere with a 2-0 week. They didn't have anything to prove, but now they do. But this team still has the most to prove. A win against the debatably worst team gives a bright spot, but doesn't really show much as for what 100 Thieves can really do. Their highest potential as I've seen thus far is maybe a 7th place, and that is unless this team can make some significant changes to really come together, but I do have to keep them here at 9th because executed potential puts them solidly here. Not potential, executed potential. Hui leveled up a bit this week and looks less like a true weakness than he did last week. That's not saying he's the most solid or he's a top tier mid laner all of a sudden, but it's good seeing him not as 100% weakness on a 100% failing team. This is just 100 jokes. But that is number 9, 100 Thieves. That brings us to last place, Golden Guardians. This team just doesn't seem to have it. They look directionless, and maybe what this team had to prove is yet to come, but after the small sample we've had to see, I need to place this team in 10th place. They're 0-4, and they lack a really clear identity, a plan. I can't see this team taking a game off of anyone as it stands. I hate to keep the GG 10th, lol, meme going, but after 2 weeks, this is clearly where this team belongs. They lost against other directionless team to prove that they really are clearly where they belong. 100 Thieves versus Golden Guardians really seem to separate a big question mark as far as who is the worst team. Golden Guardians unfortunately proved that they are the worst team this week, and that is why they are at number 10. Bonus content! Games to watch this weekend. On day 1, that's right, I'm pulling out the phone. I'm looking it up right now. I don't know these. I just make the power rankings. No, I'm just kidding. But I am looking at my phone. Week 1, it's probably got to be FlyQuest versus Liquid. That is going to be a hype matchup. If FlyQuest can come away from week 2 with some polish, I think they can really compete against TL. Now, TL's shown some weaknesses, and if FlyQuest can polish and really seem to expose those weaknesses, I think we have a hell of a week 3 discussion coming. But that is got to be my match to watch, followed up on day 1 by TSM versus Cloud9. An interesting match, and it should really separate where those are and really define where TSM belongs in these standings. On the Sunday, or the 10th, whatever, Clutch versus Cloud9. That's pretty much it. Clutch versus Cloud9 is actually kind of a toss-up, but day 1 seems to be where it's packed. Day 1 has got the 2 matches that you gotta see. That's gonna be Clutch versus C9 and Team Liquid versus FlyQuest. That is going to wrap up the video entirely for me. Leave a like if you want to see more of this content, or just see this one. Otherwise, you can always hit that subscribe button. We're coming out with these videos every week. I have stayed consistent. I have stayed on top of it. And that is my promise to you. For at least this spring split, we will provide power rankings every week. So please hit that subscribe button. Don't miss out on it. If you leave likes, comments, maybe we do more of these. Maybe we do some different kind of things. I don't know. I'm going to leave that up to you. Hit that comment section. Hit that like button. Let me know. But that is going to be a wrap. Thank you so much for watching, and especially if you've watched to the end, you're an incredible person. Just want to throw that out there. It takes a lot to sit through this much crazy, but you did it. You made it to the end. So I'm going to leave you with my signature sign off. Have a good one.